Welcome back to my channel, Total Drama Turtle. Anyways, we're here with my Survivor Winners at War review, which just finished last Wednesday, and this is a fantastic season. I loved every single moment of TV. I mean, the Yule Boot was probably the worst episode of the season by just being boring. But other than that, this season was fantastic throughout, and I loved every single minute of it. And now we are here at the end of it with a really shocking conclusion that wasn't shocking. That wasn't shocking at the time, but definitely was shocking if you just were spoiled the winner pre-merge, like pre-jury. Pre-season. You would probably be like, "How does he win?" But anyways, my Survivor Winners at War review. I will be diving into spoilers here, so if you haven't watched the season, please go away. And without further ado, 20 winners, 39 days, and a really bad twist. Not the other one. I meant the one where people are secluded on an island after being voted out. Anyways, this is my Survivor Winners at War review. Woo! Anyways, moving on to the first episode, The Greatest of the Greats, where this title really doesn't fit really doesn't fit a lot of people here, but it does fit some people here. I feel like Wendell, Adam, Ethan, Rob, Yul, Jeremy, Nick, Tony, Tyson, Kim, Natalie, Sarah, Sandra, and Parvati, they really earned their title as the greatest of all time. But then you have people like Ben and Denise and Danny. No, not Danny. Danny's fine. Michelle and Sophie, who really were not back factors at all in the actual before. They were just winners of the show. But we start off with a really fun immunity challenge where it's day one immunity and they have a tribal council the next day, which is U.S. Survivor never does this. They usually have the first vote out on day 3, and the only exception to this is Survivor Millennials versus Gen X, but that was just because of the cyclone, so they had to do it on day 4. But anyways, we have the day 1. This is like Australian Survivor. Australian Survivor has day 2 tribal councils, but we're going to Australian Survivor now for some reason. But yeah, we have the Dakal tribe winning immunity and the Silay tribe winning the tribal councils. So, on the Dakal tribe, we see a immediate 4-person alliance form with Wendell, Yul, Nick, and Sophie. This alliance forms due to them not having connections coming into the game, which is a solid reason. But then you have another alliance, another basically group form of Tyson, Kim, and Amber that Tyson and Kim played poker together, and so did Rob, which ultimately leads to Amber being included, which is that's kind of dumb. Why they only played poker for 3 hours? Why? Tyson just made a little comment saying they should be the majority alliance. So why are you targeting them? They're obviously kidding. But then on the Selay tribe, we have Adam and Denise getting lost on their way to the water well, and then people start targeting them. And Natalie and Jeremy get really cocky here, as they are all like, "Oh yeah, we just split the vote between Adam and Denise." It's nobody's gonna agree to that. People are gonna vote one of you two, especially Natalie, who isn't that big of a target coming into this season. So she's not a meat shield, but she still has that target there. So they were just really cocky. But then we have the old school alliance form of Danny, Rob, Ethan, and Parvati. And I was really flabbergasted by Rob's gameplay here, as he hears that Danny is targeting them from Ben, and Ben snitching on people is kind of a trend here. And that alliance forms of the old schoolers, because Rob is able to forget that Danny was targeting her and is able to form an alliance with her. And we'll get to that topic later on when we talk about Sandra. So yeah, we now move on to the Sille Tribal Council, where in a 7-2-1, Natalie goes home, and I won't talk about Natalie here because obviously she comes back, but yeah. And the DeCall tribe, Amber goes home because they split the vote between Amber and Kim, and Amber was fine. She brought really nothing to the table except for her last confessional during the penultimate episode. Like, other than that, she brought little to nothing on the show except being the narrator sometimes. Moving on to It's Like a Survivor Economy, where fire tokens get a lot of praise here, as on the edge of extinction, Natalie is able to sell people stuff in the actual game, which ultimately gives Jeremy his safety without power advantage, which comes in later to play. And Danny gets put in such a negative light here, and which ultimately gets her vote out in a unanimous vote, where Danny just kind of really messed up her game, where she just was mad that Parvati was hanging out with Ethan and Rob. Like, she was just like she was way too paranoid, and she was on my dream team coming into the season. If you don't know that, I was supposed to make a video on it, but I didn't get to get it on time. But I do make a dream team before every season where I pick 4 people from each season. And I chose Danny, Kim, Tyson, and Yul, which now, looking back at it, was a pretty terrible team. But Danny was fine in the premiere. She did have some good things where I was pretty confident that she could make it far, but after seeing this episode, like, there was like no way she would have won this season. She just got way too negative of an edit. Alright, moving on to Out for Blood, where Jeremy and Michelle basically control this vote after they were left on the outs of the first vote, where I won't talk about the DeCall tribe, but I'll talk about the DeCall tribe first all in a minute. But Tyson is bringing out people's names because he's trying to cover his own thing, and he's trying to do this so his target goes off of the target goes off of him and goes on to someone else. But he ends up just putting a bigger target on himself, which really doesn't look good considering that he was my winner pick going into the season. But yeah, on the Sele tribe, we have them losing immunity, of course, and then we have Adam, who was pretty much a top contender for these first couple of episodes, but after this, he just had no chance of winning the game. After he was trying to play both sides, and then getting caught, and then almost going home here. But luckily, Michelle saves the day and keeps Adam for another day because, let's be honest, in Adam's final episodes, he's fantastic. But Adam gets saved here, and then we get Ethan going home. And it was really sad when Ethan went home because he was so giddy to play this game. Like, I felt so bad when he was sniped out of the game. But after Tribal Council, like, they usually have this kind of thing where they have the music going. And when somebody who is in the minority but isn't being targeted, they have this like little music while they're answering a question from Jeff. And after that question, they have this little spiky music go up. And it's pretty clear who goes home after that. And Ethan goes home, which is really sad because I was really excited to see him play. And I was really surprised that he didn't at least make the merge. So that was really surprising. But anyways, Ethan went home here, and I was very sad. But it was clear that he wasn't ever going to return from the edge of extinction, as his story was more of surviving the edge of extinction, actually getting through it without being medically evacuated. But I'm really sad Ethan was taken out so early here, but I really hope he comes back for another season. He was just so great this season. Moving on to I Like Revenge, which this episode was like, this was one of the most strategically frustrating episodes I've ever had to sit through. Like, Sandra is so gullible here, where Sandra is like, oh, Tyson's telling me that there's this 4-person alliance of Wendell, Nick, Yul, and Sophie, and I know it's not true. And it's like, it's true, like, what the heck? Like, They obviously have a 5-person alliance, and this really makes me get really mad at Sandra here. But I'll talk about Sandra later. And Cele has a really come from behind victory. And on the DeCall tribe, we actually have some hope that Tyson could be able to flip the vote onto Nick, or Sophie, Yul, and Wendell. But obviously, Sandra is an idiot, and Tyson gets voted out. But I want to talk about Tyson here because obviously he comes back. Moving on to the buddy system on steroids, where we have the tribe swap, which I'm really surprised happened this late in the game when there were 15 people left. Because usually they have it at like 16 with 2 tribes of 5 and then 1 tribe of 6, but apparently they wanted to switch it up a little bit and have just 3 tribes of 5. But we have the Yara tribe, which is really a dysfunctional group, and really had most of my entertainment, where we had a majority of Ben, Adam, and Rob, who were originally on the Cele tribe, but these 3 voted in different directions at the last tribal council, where Ben voted for Ethan, Adam voted for Parvati, and Rob voted for Adam. So this is really a dysfunctional thing here. And then we have Sophie fighting the idol, but then we have Rob come up with this plan that's like, I have an idea for his little Cele alliance, and says, how about we just don't talk at all. We stay home. We stay at the camp. We stay here. And they all just stay there, like, why? And then Rob goes home here, and Rob was fun. I know a lot of people hate him now, but I personally think that he's one of the greatest players and one of the greatest characters of all time. Like, no matter what situation you put him in, Rob will be entertaining. Like, I don't get why people hate him. I guess it's because he's just played a lot, but he's a pretty great player. How he got people to dump their bags at Tribal Council is beyond me. But this is his worst performance out of any of his seasons, so yeah, and this probably will be the last time we ever see him play again, so yeah. Moving on to Quick on the Draw, where this is a really fun episode, where we have Yara winning immunity, and if Yara doesn't win immunity here, Adam easily goes home, but obviously they win immunity. We have Wendell being really cocky this episode, just smack-talking to Jeff and just losing immunity right afterwards. And we have Wendell just being so, this is the first time Wendell makes an actively dumb move, where Wendell decides to tell Parvati that, hey, if you throw me a couple of fire tokens, I'll vote with you, whoever you want. It's so dumb. But then we have an even dumber move by Sandra, which is worse than the JT move in Heroes vs. Villains, worse than the Tyson move in Heroes vs. Villains, and everything Sandra does here is so bad. Like, Denise says, I have 2 fire tokens. I'll give you one before Tribal Council, and then I'll give you one after Tribal Council. And then Sandra freaking gives her the idol. Like, what are you doing? But, it was pretty, but am I the only person who really was, like, thinking that Sandra was going home here? Like, everyone was thinking, Tony's gonna go home, not Tony. But I was thinking this entire time, it's Sandra. Like, the editing was so clear that Sandra was going home, and they tried to edit it in a way that Tony was going home, but it was just so clear Sandra was going home. But Parvati on the Cele tribe when they voted, Parvati was fine. She had some fun moments in some of her episodes, but she really was a non-factor throughout the season and really didn't live up to her full potential that she could have. And I was really shocked because she seemed like she could have been playing really good through the preseason. But after the tribe swap, it was destined for her to go home. And then Sandra, who made one of the dumbest moves in Survivor history. I have to say, she made one of the dumbest moves ever. I mean, giving your idol away, giving 100% safety away is such a dumb move. Like, you have this idol that's good for one more tribal council. You're now going to tribal council. But now you're giving it up. Like, why are you doing this? Like, it's such a dumb move from Sandra here. And it really aggravates me how dumb this move was. But anyway, Sandra goes home, then she quits, so yeah. Then we have War in the Majors, which begins with Sandra quitting. And then we have a really boring episode where it's a really close finish between Dakal and Sully. But after that, it's just like a really clear cut where Yule's like, we're voting Wendell, okay? But then Wendell goes to Michelle and goes like, we're voting Yule, okay? And I found the Yule boot pretty well telegraphed here. But Yule was massively underrated, and I thought he had a lot of potential going into this season, but he just couldn't live up to it and was voted out. Moving on to This Is Where the Battle Begins, which I loved, and mainly because Tyson got back in, and I love Tyson as a freaking character. But Tyson comes back here, and it's a really satisfying ending where Tyson has this scream of achievement, and it was such a powerful moment. I remember me just screaming, yes, 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 throughout. And people were so devastated that Natalie didn't come back in here, and I was like, no, I'm more satisfied that Tyson's back in. But anyways, Tyson's back, and we get to the camp where we have Jeremy and Denise winning immunity, and then we have the top two people who could be going home as Adam and Wendell. And Wendell's being really cocky, and Adam's being like, I don't want to go home. And he's about to cry, and I thought it was pretty clear by him almost crying that he's not going home. But we have a fantastic voting confessional from Adam where it's like, Wendell, it's either me or you. But do you know that it's you? And then Wendell goes home here, which Wendell was a pretty fun character through this season. But still a terrible player here. I felt like his Ghost Island game was much better than this, as he just made multiple deals with people that was against his alliance, and like, I just don't know where his head was at through this. Like, does he want to win the game? But Wendell goes home here, and he was pretty okay. He was a bad player, but great character. Moving on to War Is Not Pretty, where we have Adam and his Fleur de Lis stuff, like the Tribal Council idol. But it was, and I thought it was pretty clear by the editing that it was actually an idol. But then we get to Tribal, Adam tries to play it, Jeff says nope, and then Adam goes home here. And Adam was fantastic in this season. Like, I can't think of a thing that I didn't like from Adam. Like, Adam was so good this season. He's such a great narrator. He's not that good of a player. Like, he's not that good of a social player. He's a good strategic player. But everything he does just seems to go wrong against him. And I feel like his game only works with a specific cast. And I don't think he could have won against anybody in this cast unless he's up against, like, a Nick or a Wendell or a Ben. But Adam was pretty innovative this season, and I really liked his moves. Moving to the Full Circle, which was entertaining to a point, but then just dropped down because the family visit was so dragged out. It was like 45 minutes of just watching people talk about their families, and then like 5 minutes of strategic time, and then the Tribal Council. And the Tribal Council was fantastic this episode. I mean, we had Jeremy dip out of Tribal Council, and then Sarah just to rub wounds in the other side, just take away their vote, which was pretty fun to watch. And then we have Tyson and Kim try and pull a blind side, try and play the idol on Denise, but obviously the other side is smarter than to put their votes on Denise, and they put their votes on Tyson, and it was really heartbreaking for me to see Tyson go home the second time. And Tyson is obviously a fantastic character. His family visit is one of my favorite character moments in Survivor history, where we see this fun-loving guy just break down seeing his daughter and family, and it's such a good moment. But He was my winner pick going into the season, and I felt like he would have lived up to it if he wasn't just sniped out of the game. If Jeremy didn't leave, I felt like he could have had a shot at making it far in this game. But obviously, he obviously didn't. Moving on to This Is Extortion, where Tony picks it up here. I mean, Sophie is basically dominating this game here, but Tony is able to play level 4 gameplay and is able to basically rope in like the extortion advantage and is able to get tons of fire tokens to pay off his debt. And then he's able to win immunity after being extorted. He's able to keep his vote, which is ultimately a really powerful vote in the end. And he's able to convince Jeremy, Nick, and Michelle to vote off Sophie, who was dominating the game. And Sophie was a fantastic character here, but people just automatically put her as a top tier winner just because she's like, I felt like I was a bottom tier winner going into the season. Like, if I were to rank the winners, I'd still put her near the bottom. I mean, I like to rank my winners based off of their winning games and not any other game. So this game right here really doesn't really sell to me. This game doesn't really rank her up higher or lower than she would have been. She's just sort of still where she was. But anyway, Sophie was a pretty good character here and was definitely more likable here than she was in South Pacific because I just despise her in South Pacific. Moving on to Friendly Fire, which was a really fun episode where we begin with Sarah screeching at Tony and everyone's listening and she's like, you ruined my game. We were fine. And it's like, Sophie probably would have beaten you. But it's fine because we have Tony being able to make it up. And Tony would have gone home here if he didn't win immunity, but obviously he won immunity. And then Ben opens his stupid little mouth and says that they're targeting you, bro. And then they're able to pull the blinds out on Kim. And it was pretty clear Kim was going home here. Like ever since the preview for that episode, I was like, Kim's going home here. But yeah, Kim goes home here, and she was okay this season. She was massively underedited, and she got a ton of screen time this episode after targeting the person who has the winner edit. So it was pretty clear that she was going home. And now moving on to the penultimate step of war, which is a pretty fun episode, as Jeremy gets really mad at Ben and almost pulls off a Ben blindside, but Tony's like, nope, and just blindsides Jeremy. And then Nick basically blows up his game here, where Nick not voting out Ben was his game-ending move. And Jeremy was a fantastic character during the season. I think he is one of the greatest players to ever play this game. He's just so fantastic socially and strategically that there's no way that he doesn't make the merge on any season he's on. But it was pretty sad to see his track run finally end here, as he was playing a pretty scrappy game right here. Now moving on to Nick, where Nick was really dumb. I mean, he had a lot of doofus moments, like him sneaking up on conversations, and him just voting Ben out, him just voting Jeremy out, even though he should have voted out Ben. But Nick lost. Nick got voted out, and he was non-factor here. So, yeah. It all boils down to this, where we have Nick looking over somewhere. I have no idea where he's looking at. But we have Natalie coming back, and I didn't really care for this. But then we have some pretty annoying things happen, where Tony is like, guys, let's just assume that she has an idol. It's better to assume than just say that she doesn't. And obviously Natalie does have an idol. And then we get the second time in Survivor history where we have no votes. But then it just goes down to Denise and Sarah, and Denise goes home here. And Denise, other than her booting Sandra out, was a non-factor here, and she was pretty boring too. Anyways, moving on, it all boils down to this part too, where honestly, Ben basically ruins Tony's game here, as this could have been a game-ending move for Tony, but this really benefits Sarah, as it basically ensures that her or Tony's going into the fire making duel, and whoever wins that more than likely wins this game. So, anyways, Ben basically just quits, and Sarah votes her out. And Ben was a goat. They should have brought Ben to the end. Ben was easily winnable, and Ben should not have even been targeted for a second. Ben should have gotten to the end because he would have gotten 0 votes. Moving on to it all boils down to this, where Tony, it's a very emotional thing, where Natalie wins immunity, where I really don't care. I don't want Natalie to win. I never wanted Natalie to win this season, because I just felt like there were always more better characters than her, like Tyson, Tony, Sophie, Sarah, Ben. No, not Ben. What am I talking about? Adam. Like, there's so much better characters than her. But we have her winning immunity, obviously taking Michelle, putting her up against Tony, putting Sarah up against Tony, and my mom, while watching this, my mom's like, Tony's gonna lose and we're gonna get an all-female final 3, but I'm like, no, Tony's gonna win this, and then Tony wins this after a really close battle where Sarah almost wins it for a second, but then obviously she smothers her fire, and Tony wins it, and it's a very emotional ending to Cops R Us. But, yeah. And I liked Sarah here. She very well could have been the first boot if, based off of the interviews. But she was able to, she was able to make social connections with Sophie, Ben, and Tony that were able to navigate her through the game. And I felt like if she got to the end against Michelle and Natalie, she probably would have won the game. So Sarah did play a really good game as Survivor, but obviously she was basically the second in command to Tony. Moving on to Final Tribal Council, where basically Tony dominated this tribal. Michelle was barely edited because she gets 0 votes. And then Natalie tries to defend herself, being like, No, I played a good game, despite me only playing 6 days in the actual game. It's like, why would they vote for you if you only played 6 days in the actual game? She only played 6 days in the actual game. Days 1, 2, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39. Like, she only played such little of this game. And it's really mind-boggling to me that she even got 4 votes, because I felt like those votes were going to go to Michelle, as I thought Parvati was going to vote for Michelle any day of the week. But obviously we have a pretty satisfying ending here, where we have Michelle, where I definitely would have, if it was a final 2 between Natalie and Michelle, I would have voted for Michelle. Michelle was my second contender going into this episode, and she lived up to her I gotta prove something this season, where I'm really surprised she got 0 votes due to her trying to prove something, as I thought that she could have gotten some votes from, like, a Rob, because I remember Rob being a really big Michelle advocator in the day. But anyways, Michelle got 0 votes here, even though she probably should have gotten the votes that Natalie gotten. Moving on to Natalie, and Natalie, I was so happy didn't win this season. Everybody was like, some people on a podcast were like talking about, oh, if Natalie wins this season, that would be such a good story as the first boot coming back and then winning the season. Like, that's basically what Chris Underwood did. It's like, you guys were so mad when Chris Underwood won. It's basically the same thing here if Natalie wins. But thank God she didn't win. And she was a pretty good character here, but I was just always rooting for other people over her, which obviously I'm a huge Natalie fan. I'm just more of a Tyson, Tony, Boston Rob, Ethan fan, that they always beat Natalie in every single aspect. And moving on to Tony, who obviously has a great story here. His Cagayan game, everybody was talking about, oh, it's a one and done. If he comes back, he's not gonna win. And it kind of keeps going when he goes to Game Changers, where he goes out second. But he's able to play house arrest this season, and then he's able to build the spy nest, which is obviously fantastic. And then he's able to win this season. And at the moment, he holds the record for most jury votes in a single season with 12, and most jury votes in total with 20. So Tony was fantastic during the season, and if he comes back for Survivor Legends, he could possibly be our first three-time winner. And let's talk about fire tokens here, which I loved fire tokens. And I really hope fire tokens return in the future because fire tokens were absolutely fantastic during this whole season. I mean, the way people traded them as like a loyalty or a strategic game, and obviously my only complaint about this was the extortion advantage, which sucks. But yeah, the fire tokens here were fantastic to watch and see all these people maneuver all around the game with this little disadvantage slash advantage. But I really hope we see it in the future, and it was a very good advantage. And now my overall takeaways where I would love to see Tony play again. I would love to see Michelle play again. Sarah, Nick, Jeremy, Kim, Tyson, Adam, Sophie, Wendell, Yule, Rob's never going to play again. Ethan, even though he's probably not going to play again. Parvati's probably not going to play again. Like, this season does feel like an end of an era where half of these people will probably never play again, like Rob, Ethan, Parvati, Sandra, Amber. Like, those 5 people will probably never play again, and it's such a sad feeling. But anyways, this really was a fantastic season of the show, and I really enjoyed it despite some people criticizing it. I'm not going to put it into a ranking because I want to do all of the seasons chronologically. So once I get around to reviewing that after my Survivor Island of the Isles review, I'm going to name that Revisiting Survivor Island of the Survivor Winners at War. Anyways, next week I have my Big Brother 1 review, so tune in for that because that's going to be a long one. I mean, wish me luck because that season sucks. But anyways, I'm Turtle here, signing out. Bye-bye.